835 feet.
Hey yo.
This is the Fantasy Den, presented by Buffalo Boxing Club and Rotosurance.
What's up, guys? Welcome back to the Fantasy Den podcast. I'm your host, Josh, and I'm here with Tom. We're going to be talking about the game from last night, epic finish between the Chargers and Chiefs, fighting for dominance in the AFC right now to get that bye week. We're also going to be previewing the rest of the matchups for tomorrow and Sunday. This is being recorded on Friday night. But before we do that, Tom, let's talk about some notes real quick, some important injury updates for this coming weekend. Doug Baldwin got some limited practice in this week. He's questionable with his hip injury, but he expects to play. How much trust can you have in a guy like Doug Baldwin coming into this weekend, Tom?
Yeah, I think if he plays, if he's out there playing, you play him. On the season, San Francisco is the fourth worst against a wide receiver, and they've given up 20 touchdowns to wide receivers. No team's given up more than that. So if he plays, I think you play him.
All right, we'll get into that game a little bit more when we preview it coming up. Keep it rolling. Keenan Allen came out of last night's game, obviously exited early after the touchdown grab that ended up being out of bounds. He's got a hip pointer, so he's going to be week to week, something to monitor.
I still think he caught that touchdown. I think that was a touchdown.
Going into the 49ers, a lot of injuries here. Breida, questionable with the ankle, but he did get some limited practice in this week, so keep your eye on that. Dante Pettis, questionable with the foot injury. Goodwin, questionable with the calf injury. I don't think Goodwin is a guy that you're really looking to play this weekend, even if he's out there. Pettis, though, has come on these past couple weeks. This is a guy that he's probably owned by a lot of teams right now, so you want to keep your eye on that. The pregame warm-ups, see what I think he's going to go most likely, but you want to keep that keep an eye on that just to see if they shut him down or not. Rashad Penny, he's out with a knee injury, so that's going to bump up Mike Davis, who should be widely available in your leagues. Chris Carson is obviously the lead back. He's going to get most of the work. Mike Davis, if you're really hurt at running back. Moving on, Carson Wentz out with the fractured vertebrae. Disappointing news for the Eagles. I would be surprised if they let him play anymore this season. I think they need to shut him down. It's been a bad season, a lost season in my eyes. No sense in rolling him out there and, possibly making that injury worse. Zach Martin is going to be out right guard for the Dallas Cowboys. That's going to hurt Zeke Elliott. They're going to be putting in the rookie Connor Williams, who struggled mightily in his limited action this season. Odell Beckham, he's going to miss a second straight game with that quad injury. It's obviously something if he's missed 2 games back-to-back, but it's disappointing for any fantasy team who is fighting for a championship right now, fighting to go to the next round. You need your big guns out there. A guy like Sterling Shepard gets a bump up here. Is this guy worth going out and getting and starting in his place, Tom?
Yeah, Sterling Shepard's definitely worth picking up. Somebody needs to own him. Now, how confident you feel in playing him, that's a different story. They're playing against the Titans, who've actually been pretty bad against receiver. They're in the top 10. I think they're the 10th worst against receiver. So it's not the worst matchup, but it's a risky play. I don't know how much you could be expecting more. I wouldn't expect much more than a mid-wide receiver 2-day from him.
And last note here, James Conner did get a limited practice in today, so that's encouraging. He's got a shot to play this weekend. It's got to come down to pregame warm-ups, see what they do with him there. So it's encouraging news for James Conner owners, but it's not a sure thing yet. So again, keep your eye on him. That's it for the notes. Let's talk about this game from last night, Tom. We knew it was going to be a big showdown. Last Thursday night game of the season, and fans were not disappointed. Chargers started this game off slow, get down in the hole 14-0 in the first quarter. Phillip Rivers throws a pick. Not looking good for the Chargers right away. The Chiefs' defense looked a lot better last night, at least to start the game, the first half of the game. But they ended up coming back, classic Phillip Rivers fashion, leading them to a last-second win with a 2-point conversion. They take down the Chiefs 29-28. What were your thoughts on this game?
Yeah, it was one of the best games of the season. Great finish at the end. I think the Chiefs, part of the problem is, I've talked about it coming into the game, is the Chargers are like a really complete team. They're good on offense, they're good on defense. While the Chiefs, they did play good last night. Their defense is playing better, and they definitely got pressure on Rivers last night. They had the 2 picks, and they had sacks on them. 5 sacks. So, their defense showed up and played good, but I think they kind of, part of the problem with it is that they don't have a lot of great playmakers on the defensive side, and I think they tend to get gassed a little bit because their offense, scores so quick, and defense is on the field a lot for the Chiefs, and they're out there a lot. And it was just the momentum swing after half. Really, the Chargers just took over the second half, and the Chiefs just really couldn't get back any of the momentum. And so, yeah, I mean, it was a really great game to watch. And, Rivers, yeah, like you said, he really is a great, comeback quarterback. And, the Chargers really are never out of any game.
He threw 2 picks in this game. Rivers, he was able to overcome that, threw for 3 touchdowns, 313 yards. He almost threw that 3rd pick, but just barely got it, knocked away from the defender there. That could have really been a big swing again for them. But, congrats to the Chargers because they lose Keenan Allen early in the game. Mike Williams had a huge day. He stepped up big time for you. But they're also dealing with their 3rd string running back in this game, being Justin Jackson, who really didn't look very good. He started heating up as the game went on, but he struggled to move the ball against a bad Chiefs defense for the most part.
The touchdown saved his day. Like you said, the Mike Williams play was huge. Obviously, Keenan Allen leaving the game, that plays into it big. I said on the last podcast, I thought Mike Williams had a good chance to get in the end zone. Thought he would score a touchdown. Didn't think he would score 3. And didn't think he would have a rushing touchdown on that end-around play they gave him. Keenan Allen leaving obviously opened this up a lot for him. And Mike Williams, had a monster game here. And, I don't know how, really couldn't predict this one because, like you said, the Keenan Allen injury. But Mike Williams flashed his talent here. And, man, it looks good for the Chargers going forward. Really thinking of next season and beyond with these 2 receivers, 2 really good receivers. But the other thing about the Chargers we should mention is, they did this without Melvin Gordon. So imagine if they had Gordon out there too. You got to think they would, be favored more. So the Chargers are really scary for any team to face right now.
Yeah, they beat one of the best offenses in the league, if not the best offense in the league, without their 2 best skill players out there, Keenan Allen and Melvin Gordon. So I really can't get over what a comeback it was for Phillip Rivers in this game. We talked about Mike Williams, how effective he was in this game. The other guys had to step up too here. Tyrell Williams led the team in targets with 12. Only had 6 receptions and 71 yards. The thing that stood out to me about Tyrell Williams is this guy was dropping balls all over the field. I don't know what was going on with him, but he couldn't seem to keep his hands on the ball.
Yeah, not a great game in terms of actual football, but, productive in fantasy. He gave you 71 yards. I don't know how many people were really playing Tyrell Williams, but he stepped up somewhat in Keenan Allen's absence, but he didn't have to do a whole lot with Mike Williams just kind of taking over that game.
And for the Chiefs, started off this game hot. They're also using their 3rd string running back, Damian Williams. He had an awesome day. 6 receptions on 6 targets for 74 yards, and then on the ground with only 10 carries, 49 yards there, and another 2 touchdowns. They gave him the ball in the red zone. That's encouraging to see. They had trust in him there. Darrell Williams, he got a little pitch out pass in the red zone. He got a touchdown as well, so he had an okay day. Probably not started very much, but if you started Damian Williams, if you picked him up in the news that Spencer Ware wasn't going to play, then you're very happy with his production. 20-point plus kind of day for a backup running back that you plugged in on a Thursday night. So awesome day for him.
Yeah, we talked about it on the last podcast. We both thought he would be good. I thought he would be a safe RB2. Put up RB1 numbers. He's going to finish as one of the best running backs of the week. And the thing that sticks out about Williams is he looks explosive when he gets the ball. He's so fast. He's got that top end speed, really difference making speed. I think even if Ware comes back, Williams has carved out his role here. They need to be getting him the ball because he's really explosive, and they give him that great threat out of the backfield that Kareem Hunt was. I'm not calling him Kareem Hunt, but they give him it's that same kind of difference playmaker that back there.
I agree completely, and I said on the last podcast we talked about how much we liked him. I said if this guy starts, I guarantee he's going to get 15 plus points. Did I expect him to get 2 touchdowns and this much yardage? Maybe not so, but awesome day there. He fits the system very, very well, like you said. I think the thing that I like most about him is that you see when the plays break down, he's able to kind of get out to the outside and catch a little pass and do a lot with it. 6 receptions for 74 yards. That tells you all you need to know if you're watching the game. This guy is fast. He's got the burst. So he's a good fit for them. And, I wouldn't be surprised if he supplants Ware regardless.
Yeah, he should just based off of his playmaking potential because of his speed. And, yeah, you love seeing him being involved like this, getting the carries and getting, receptions out of the backfield.
Let's talk about Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelce. I expected a bigger day from Kelce here. I think it's because they got up kind of early. They didn't have to go to him as much. He still had 9 targets in this game, which led the team. 7 receptions, 61 yards. But maybe not quite the day we were expecting to see from Kelce.
Yeah, maybe not quite, but that just shows you how good he is. 61 yards
this is his floor, really.
Yeah, it is. And I was going to say that's not you take that from any tight end, really. They gave you 61 yards. All right, you're going to take that. It's pretty serviceable at tight end. But for a guy like this, that's that's low because of his potential. So not a great game from him. And yeah, I mean, it hurts you because you're in your semifinals or you're in your championship already for some leagues. So it really hurts you because of how good he's been all season. And when you have Kelsey, you really want that advantage at tight end because you have the advantage with the athleticism he has and the offense that he's on.
Tyreek Hill, we knew coming into this game, was going to be struggling to battle through this Hill injury that he has. 4 receptions on 7 targets for 46 yards. Didn't have the big explosive plays like we're used to seeing.
Yeah, he didn't, but you can't sit Tyreek Hill at this point in the season. Hindsight's 2020, bad game, but there's no way you're sitting him. I said this a long time ago, or I cannot remember which episode, earlier at some point in the season. There's not a player in fantasy that has the floor to ceiling that Tyreek Hill has, because in this game he gave you 4, in a standard league 4 points. But I mean, there's been weeks this season where he's gotten you over 30. I mean, there's just not a guy who
he
who
killed
goes,
the Chargers in week 1.
Yeah, he has such a crazy just floor range to ceiling. But all that being said, no way you can sit him. It was a bad game. But it's Tyreek Hill. He can blow up on any given play. So it was a bad game from him and Kelsey. And Mahomes really didn't have a big game either. It was the second lowest scoring game of the season. Only put up 18 points in a 4-point passing league. So really not a great game for any of the Chiefs other than Damian Williams.
Demarcus Robinson caught a touchdown in this game, who came on last week a little bit as far as targets and receptions, but wasn't really fantasy relevant last week. This touchdown was the only thing he did in this game. Chris Conley didn't do much in this game either. 2 receptions, 19 yards. We saw Kelvin Benjamin, their new addition at receiver, get out there. He only had that 1 reception for 17 yards, but it was a big one for them. It put him right there on the goal line. Awesome game. Great start to week 15. Let's get into the rest of these games. Just a friendly reminder, there are the 2 Saturday games this weekend as well as next weekend, so make sure to set your lineups so you don't have the luxury of waiting until Sunday morning and finalizing your lineups. We've got 4 teams playing tomorrow. We've got the Texans at the Jets. We've got the Browns at the Broncos. Tom, let's start with Texans at the Jets. What do you expect from this game?
So on the Jets side of the ball, I like Elijah McGuire. It's based off of volume and the fact that he's really the only healthy running back. Now they placed Isaiah Crowell on IR. Quincy Enunwa is going to miss this game. Chris Herndon's coming a little banged up, but I just don't like the matchup for him. And him and Darnold don't really seem to have a connection. So I don't think you're playing Chris Herndon here. If you are, I think it's a tight end 2 kind of day. I expect a low day from him. So I like McGuire based off the volume and the fact that he's really the one healthy Jet there. I think the fact that they're playing in New Jersey, it helps the Jets a little bit. And Houston's run defense has been shut down, but I think McGuire is going to be okay here just because of the volume he's going to see.
Yeah, you said it. You don't love the matchup. He's honestly not very, very talented as a running back. He leaves a lot to be desired. Not exceptionally fast, strong, etc. But he's pretty well-rounded in that regard. He can catch the ball out of the backfield. He can do some things there. But it's a volume play, as you mentioned. What about a guy like Robbie Anderson? We know what his game is. He's a flyer. He's a guy who can stretch the field for you. He's a lot like Deshaun Jackson. He could get that one big play and make an okay fantasy day for you. Would you flex him this week? Is he in that range for you, or is he wide receiver 4, even beyond that?
Yeah, I don't think I'd be flexing him. It's more based off of Sam Darnold and what we see from him. There just hasn't been consistency there. I think you have to have better options. I don't feel comfortable flexing him.
All right, let's talk about the Texans side of the ball. Lamar Miller, we've seen the good, we've seen the bad. What do you expect in this game from him?
I think he's pretty much a safe, locked-in RB2. I think he'll see a lot of carries. I don't know that the Texans are going to have to do a whole lot here to win this game. I think it's kind of a low-scoring game. I think the Jets will actually be competitive, though, and they'll keep it closer than people think. I think they'll be able to score a little bit against the Texans. I know their defense has been good, but I expect that the Jets will score a little bit here. But I think like a 14-17 kind of game is what I see Texans winning. So I just don't think they're going to have to do a whole lot. I see DeAndre Hopkins having a mediocre day here. I think he gets in the end zone, but I think it's 60 yards and a touchdown kind of day. I just don't see a lot of them going off. And Deshaun Watson is going to be a lower-end QB1 this week. I think he's a safe play, but I just don't expect too much of a boom here for the Texans.
Is there any other wide receivers here that you would play? Demaryius Thomas, Kiki, if he's out there? Or is the game, in your eyes, this game script going to be too low-scoring for these guys to have much fantasy value this weekend?
Yeah, I think it's low scoring, and I think that you probably have better options than Demaryius Thomas. I wouldn't feel comfortable putting him in this matchup just because, the way the game flow to me plays out, it's going to be low scoring. kind of moving the ball slowly, defensive running kind of game. So don't expect a huge day from Demaryius. Don't expect a huge day from Hopkins, like I said. So not really trusting Demaryius.
All right, let's go to the next one, Tom. We got the Browns traveling to Denver to take on the Broncos. Of the running backs here, who has the better day, Nick Chubb or Phillip Lindsay?
This one's close for me. I'm going to have to give the edge to Phillip Lindsay. I think that he's going to do a little more than Nick Chubb. I don't like either of them as really high plays this week. I think they're both kind of high RB2s. But I'm going to take Phillip Lindsay in the matchup at home.
Yeah, it's close for me because I like both of these guys a lot. And you're right, they do have the home field advantage for Lindsay. I have to slightly give the edge to Chubb only because he's a lot more involved in the passing game as well. Where as talented as Phillip Lindsay is, and you look at his build, you would think he would get more receptions just because those smaller, shiftier running backs tend to. He really doesn't get that many receptions at all. He's pretty much purely a runner. So for me, I got to go Nick Chubb there. And also, you're looking at the Broncos coming off an ugly loss to the 49ers. You expect them to bounce back in this game and beat the Browns?
This one's really, really close. This is a really, really close matchup for me at home. I think the Broncos win because of their defense. I think that the Browns are going to make a competitive game, but I definitely think the Broncos defense is going to be the difference in this game. They've been getting hotter over the last 4 weeks. They haven't given up a rushing touchdown. I think that they're going to come out and get a lot of pressure on Mayfield, force him into some mistakes, just get sacks on him. So I think that Denver's defense is going to be the difference in this game. So I do like Denver to win the game.
Now, there's not a lot of sexy receiver names in this game. Jarvis Landry, though, is one of them. He's coming off a big game last week. Do you expect him to keep it going here?
I definitely think they're going to go to him more. I think that they're trying to get him involved somewhat. Over the last 4 weeks, only 6 teams have given up more yards to wide receivers than Denver Broncos, and they've given up 4 touchdowns, which isn't a lot of touchdowns, but the yardage is something, and that's something you can count on. Touchdowns are a little bit fluky, so I do think he's in line to get you a solid floor here, but I don't expect a big game from Jarvis. Look, I think he can get you 70 to 90 yards here pretty easy, honestly. The touchdown will be the thing that I'm not sure about. If he gets you a touchdown, it's a great play, but I don't expect him to score in this game. I think, like I said, Denver's going to be tough. No Chris Harris helps him, which is why I like him a little bit better, but I just think it's going to be a tough matchup for Cleveland because Denver's been getting so hot lately. I think it'll be an interesting game, but I definitely think that Jarvis is a safe low wide receiver too, or a low to mid wide too.
I don't love the Broncos. You know, their defense is obviously their strength. They've got a solid run game with Phillip Lindsay, but I mean, Case Keenum brings his limitations to the table. So the receivers there that are available in leagues, a lot of people are picking them up. A lot of people are somewhat excited about them. Deshaun Hamilton, Tim Patrick, Cortland Sutton. Do they get you excited at all? Would you put them in your lineup? If so, where?
Yeah, I don't really like any of them. I'm going to take Cortland Sutton as a wide receiver 3 based off of the targets that he should see. But you said it yourself. I mean, first off, it's really a running team with Phillip Lindsay. The fact that Case Keenum's back there doesn't really inspire confidence, especially if you have the receivers for him. It doesn't really make you excited to start these guys in fantasy. The other 2 guys, I know they had good games. I know they're seeing some targets, but I would not be starting either of them. I would, if you had to start Cortland Sutton as a desperation flex, that's what he is to me at most. Desperation flex, you're putting him in there and hoping he goes boom because his talent profile, he can do that. He has the ability, but that's really risky play. I think, that you're really, reaching there.
Yeah, I agree completely. You don't want to chase targets. It's an extremely small sample size. It was just that one game at San Francisco against the 49ers. So keep that in mind. Not the best defense in the world. Phillip Lindsay got a little bit stifled in that game. They couldn't use the run game as much as they would like to have. So I would strongly advise staying away from those other receivers except for Cortland Sutton. And I agree completely. He's a flex for me at best.
Yeah. One thing working in his favor is on the season, only 5 teams have given him more yards to wide receiver than the Browns. So there should be something there. But like I said, with all these guys, I don't think you can start Hamilton or Patrick. That's really too risky or crazy. At this point in the season, you can't do that. But Cortland Sutton, I think he's in line to get you something. But again, we're still looking at desperation flex type stuff here.
I think this game actually sets up bad for the Browns, though. I feel like it's kind of a trap game for Baker Mayfield. Let's not forget, as improved as the Browns are, they only just got their first road win against the Bengals.
I see this being like a mediocre game for Mayfield. I see a 2-touchdown, 2-pick kind of game, like 240, 250 yards. I don't expect a huge game here, but I think they stay in it a little bit, but I think that Denver wins the game. But the Browns are definitely more competitive this year than they have been in a really long time.
Would you rather start Deshaun Watson or Baker Mayfield?
Deshaun Watson.
Robbie Anderson or Cortland Sutton?
Cortland Sutton. They are close, and I will say, I didn't mention this earlier when we were talking about the games, over the last 4 weeks, only the Eagles have given them more yards to wide receivers than Houston, believe it or not, with how shut down their defense has been. So I think, Robbie Anderson has a chance to do something, but with those two, I would take Cortland Sutton just because I think he has more touchdown potential.
I think I would take Robbie Anderson in that one. I just think that the Jets are going to be desperate enough to heave one up. We know his speed, and Darnold's got a big arm too. He may not be the most accurate, the most, effective quarterback as a rookie right now, but I think he can heave one downfield and connect with Anderson for a score. Let's talk tight ends in these two games. Would you rather play Chris Herndon or David Njoku?
David Njoku. On the season, the Broncos are the 4th worst against the tight end. In terms of yardage, only the Chiefs have given him more yards this season than the Broncos to the tight ends. So I definitely like Njoku here. I think he's in store for a decent game based off the matchup and based off the numbers I just said. But again, I don't think he's going to give you a huge game. There really hasn't been a lot of great consistency with him and Baker. But between those two guys, I would take Njoku.
And let's talk about some deeper league guys who might be really stretching to pick up a player at their flex position or wide receiver position. Would you rather play one of these secondary receiver options for the Browns, like an Antonio Callaway, Rashard Higgins, or one of the secondary guys for the Broncos, like Tim Patrick, Deshaun Hamilton?
I'll take the Browns guys because I think they have a better chance to score. I like Baker Mayfield a lot better than Case Keenum. He's definitely more of a gunslinger type. He's going to throw it down the field. And the way the Browns are, you have a better chance of Higgins or Callaway catching a deep bomb than Patrick or Hamilton.
Okay, that's it for the Saturday games. That's it for this episode, guys. Don't forget to go to Twitter. Hit us up with your questions there at The Fantasy Den. And thank you for subscribing, rating, and reviewing us on iTunes. Check us out on Spotify, Stitcher, and Google Play as well. Thanks, guys. We'll catch you next time.